The stars were quiet that night. On the edge of the galaxy, a peaceful planet called Valen sent a final cry into the black sky. Their people were being hunted. Their cities were burning. Their enemies, the cruel Korthax Empire, showed no mercy. The signal was short, weak, and filled with pain. It said just 4 words: "Please, someone help us." Far away, on Earth, a small group of people sat in silence as the signal played. They were not politicians. They were not scientists. They were something else darker, colder, stronger. They were known as Project Harbinger, Earth's most ruthless warriors. The room was dark. Screens showed images of fire, smoke, and fear. One of the men, tall with scars across his face, leaned forward. His name was Commander Rain. He had seen many wars. He had survived battles where entire planets had died. He looked at the signal and said only 3 words: "Prepare the team." Years ago, Earth had begged for help from the galaxy. Their ships were slow, their weapons weak. The Galactic Council had laughed at humans. They said Earth was too small, too soft, too young. No one came when Earth cried for help, so Earth changed. They stopped asking. They started building. They trained a secret group warriors without fear, trained in silence, raised in shadows. Their goal was not peace. Their goal was survival. Their orders were clear: help only those who are abandoned, and punish those who cause pain. Now, someone else was crying, and Earth had heard. The black warship Oblivion left Earth silently. No press, no news, no speeches. Just a team of 11 soldiers, each one hand-picked, each one dangerous. Inside the ship, the mood was quiet. Some cleaned their weapons. Others sat with closed eyes, remembering the wars they had fought. One soldier, a woman named Vega, stared at the stars. Her eyes were cold, but her heart remembered every face she couldn't save. "Valen," she whispered, reading the name of the planet. "Hang on." On Valen, things were getting worse. The Korthax Empire had no heart. They crushed cities for power. They burned villages for sport. Their ships circled the sky like vultures. The Valen people hid in caves and forests, praying someone would come. In one hidden shelter, a young Valen girl named Sira held her little brother. Her father was gone. Her mother was silent, too tired to cry. The ground shook with every explosion. The air smelled like ash. Then suddenly, silence. Don't know bombs, no screams, no sound, and then a deep hum in the sky. Sira looked up. A black ship was landing. It was not like the Korthax ships. It made no sound. It had no lights. Just a strange symbol on the side, an old Earth letter. H. Commander Rain stepped off the ship first. The land was broken. Trees were black. The sky was gray. He looked around, scanning the area with his helmet behind him. 10 other soldiers stepped out, each one ready, calm, and silent. They didn't speak to the Valen people. They didn't make promises. They didn't say they were here to save anyone. They just started walking. In the distance, a Korthax patrol spotted them. "Humans," one of the alien soldiers laughed. "Why are they here? Do they want to die too?" They opened fire. Big mistake. In less than a minute, the patrol was gone. Nothing left but smoke and silence. The humans didn't run. They didn't hide. They moved like shadows and struck like thunder. The Valen people watched from afar, unsure if these new warriors were angels or demons. One elder whispered, "They don't fight like soldiers. They fight like they've already lost everything." Back on the ship, Vega looked at the mission board. Her voice was quiet but clear. "We're not here to rescue." Commander Rain nodded. "No, we're here to make sure no one ever dares to cry for help again, because they'll be too afraid of who answers." That night, the stars above Valen were no longer quiet. They were watching, because Earth had arrived, and this time, it wasn't sending diplomats. It was sending the monsters it made to fight monsters. The sky above Valen was dark with smoke. The air was thick and heavy. Ashes fell like black snow. Once a beautiful planet, Valen now looked like a graveyard. The human warship Oblivion stood silently near a destroyed city. Its engines were cold. Its ramp was down. 11 human soldiers had already left the ship. They moved like shadows across the dead streets. Buildings were broken. Roads were cracked. Fire still burned in some places. The smell of death was everywhere. The Korthax had destroyed everything: homes, schools, even temples. But now, something new was here. Something worse for the Korthax. Commander Rain walked in front. His armor was black with red marks. He held a heavy rifle, but his eyes were sharper than the weapon. He stopped and raised his hand. The team froze. Rain spoke in a low voice through the comms. Movement. North Wall. Korthax patrol 3 targets. No panic. No shouting. Just action. Vega and 2 others split off. They moved fast. Silent. Like ghosts. 30 seconds later, the sound of 3 gunshots echoed once and stopped. 3 bodies hit the ground. Not a single human was hurt. In the ruined city, a small group of Valen survivors watched from a distance. They were hiding in an old underground shelter. The leader, an old man named Orden, held a telescope. His hands shook as he looked at the humans. "They are not like us," he whispered. "They fight without fear." A young woman beside him asked, "Are they here to save us?" Orden didn't answer. He wasn't sure. In another street, the humans found bodies, dozens of Valen civilians, burned, broken, left to rot. Vega knelt beside a child's body. No tears, no words, just quiet rage. A soldier named Juno growled, "Korthax, we'll pay for this." Rain gave one order: double patrols. Hunt begins now. The team moved building to building, clearing the city. They left no Korthax alive. Their tactics were clean, brutal, and fast. The Korthax soldiers who had once laughed at humans were now running. But there was nowhere to hide. In a Korthax base outside the city, a general named Zarnak slammed his fist on a metal table. "What do you mean humans are here?" he shouted. "They're just earth trash. Weaklings. Farmers." His officer shook his head. "They're killing our men in silence. Patrols are gone. Cameras are down. It's like they're hunting us." Zarnak growled. "Fine. If it's war they want, we'll show them Korthax fire." But deep inside, even Zarnak was afraid. He had heard of these humans, the ones who didn't ask for peace, the ones who didn't stop until the ground was soaked in blood, back in the city. One human soldier, Red, found a hidden door behind a destroyed wall. He opened it and stepped into a small shelter. Inside, he found 4 Valen survivors, 2 children, 1 woman, 1 man. The man raised a shaking hand. "Please, we mean no harm." Reed didn't speak. He lowered his weapon and nodded. He pulled out a small scanner and checked them. Number. Injuries. He gave the children food, gave the woman water, then turned to leave. The man asked, "Are you angels?" Reed paused. "No," he said. "We're the reason your enemies will beg for mercy." And then he disappeared into the smoke again. Commander Rain stood at the city center. Around him, the team reported their kills, positions, and progress. Zone 3 clear. Enemy vehicles destroyed. No civilian threats. But Rain was not relaxed. "This is only the beginning," he said. Vega stood beside him. Her voice was calm. "Then let's begin properly." That night, the humans set up a small base inside an old Valen courthouse. They did not sleep. They cleaned weapons. They studied maps. They planned the next move. Outside, Valen survivors began to come out of hiding. They watched the humans from afar. Some were afraid. Some were hopeful. All were silent. Syrah, the little girl who had survived in Part 1, peeked from behind a rock. She watched Vega walk past, holding a glowing red blade. Syrah's eyes widened. She whispered to her brother, "I think they came to save us." Her brother asked, "Are they heroes?" Sarah paused. "I don't know, but the monsters are running from them." In the stars above, the Galactic Council heard whispers. "Earth has responded," one alien leader said. Another asked, "With diplomats?" "No," the reply came, "with demons in human skin." The fire on Valen still burned, but the streets had gone quiet. The Korthax patrols were gone. The people hiding underground had started to come out. For the first time in weeks, there was no screaming, no explosions, but there was still fear. Fear of the new visitors, the humans. They didn't smile, they didn't speak much. They only moved like shadows and struck like lightning, and no one knew who they really were, or why they were so deadly. In the ruins of the Valen city, Commander Rain stood near a collapsed statue. The sun was rising, painting the ashes gold. He stared at the horizon, silent, thoughtful. Behind him, Vega walked over. "This place reminds me of New Kyoto," she said. Rain nodded slowly. "Same smell, same silence." She looked at him. "They don't understand us. The Valen people think we're here to rescue them." "We're not," Rain replied. "We're here to punish monsters." In a makeshift bunker nearby, the humans had set up a war table using scraps of metal. On the screen was a Korthax map. Their movements, bases, command points. Soldier Juno stared at it and spoke quietly. "This is like what happened to Earth before everything changed." The youngest soldier, Cade, looked up. "You mean before Project Harbinger?" Juno gave a short nod. "Before the galaxy turned its back on us." Flashback. Earth, 70 years ago. Earth was in flames. Alien pirates had attacked colonies. Earth sent signals for help, please, cries, begging. But the Galactic Council had ignored them. "Earth is not important," they had said. "Let them solve their own problems." But Earth wasn't ready. Millions died. Entire cities were erased. And that was the last day Earth ever asked for help. Back in the present, Vega stood in front of the Valen survivors. She didn't give a speech. She didn't promise safety. She showed them a hologram Earth, years ago, covered in smoke and blood. A voice played from the recording. "We begged the stars for help. No one came, so we became what we needed." Then, the hologram changed, showing soldiers in black armor, training in fire, fighting in brutal battles, winning against impossible odds. We became the weapon. The Valen people sat in silence. One of them asked, "And now you're here? For us?" Vega's voice was cold. "No, we're here for them." In a hidden cave outside the city, 2 Korthax scouts watched the humans from far away. "They're not just soldiers," one whispered. "There's something else." The other nodded. "They don't fight for power. They fight like they've already lost everything." Then the first scout trembled. "What kind of world creates warriors like that?" Inside the human base, Cade sat, cleaning his gear. He looked at Vega and asked, "Why do we do this? We were born in peace. We didn't lose anyone in the first war." Vega answered without looking at him. "Because we were trained by those who did." She paused, then said, "They built us from pain, trained us with one goal. Never let another world suffer like Earth did." Cade was quiet, then he whispered, "But we don't show mercy." Vega looked at him finally. "That's why it works." Meanwhile, Commander Rain received a message from Earth Command. A hologram flickered in the air. "Update." Rain replied, "One city secure. Enemy retreating. Locals unsure of our presence. Do not build hope. Do not become their heroes." "I know," Rain said. "We are not hope. We are history's answer." The hologram ended. He stared into the ashes. Later that night, a storm rolled in. Rain fell over the ruined streets. Smoke mixed with water. The fires slowly died. And yet, the people did not sleep. Not because of fear, but because of what they had seen. A child saw a human soldier stand guard in the rain, unmoving for hours. A woman watched one of them fix a broken generator storing lights. To a dark shelter. They were not kind, they were not friendly, but they were doing what no one else had done. They were fighting for them, back in the city center. Juno looked at a Korthak symbol spray-painted on a broken wall. It read, "We own the stars." He picked up a piece of metal and scratched something underneath. "Earth remembers." In the shadows above, Korthak ships circled in orbit. Their generals were planning revenge. They wanted to strike back harder, faster. But deep inside, they were afraid, because Earth had sent warriors who had nothing left to lose and nothing left to fear. The quiet on Valen didn't last long. For a moment, the skies were peaceful. The fires had stopped. The screams were gone. The black-armored humans had brought silence. But in the dark space above the planet, something was moving. The Korthak's empire was angry. They had heard reports. Their patrols were gone. Their bases were destroyed. Their soldiers were dead. And all because of 11 humans. They couldn't believe it at first. But the evidence was clear. Earth had answered Valen's call. And it had answered with its sharpest blade, in a massive Korthak's warship. General Zarnak stood in front of a glowing map. His eyes burned with rage. "These humans think they're strong," he growled. "They killed scouts and wiped out patrols. But they haven't faced the real Korthak's army." He pointed at the planet on the screen. "Send the Flame Division. Crush the city. Leave nothing standing." His officer hesitated. "But General, the Flame Division is for high-level wars." "That's overkill." Zarnak slammed his fist down. "Do it. Burn them. Burn everything." On the surface, the human soldiers were already preparing. Commander Rain stood at the war table. His face was calm, but his voice was sharp. "They're coming," he said. Juno nodded. Orbital readings show multiple Korthak ships, bigger than last time. Cade asked, "Should we pull back?" "No," Rain said. "We hold this ground. We make them bleed." In the ruined city, the Valen people gathered quietly. They had started cleaning streets, rebuilding homes, lighting candles. They thought maybe, just maybe, they were safe now. But the sky began to change. Clouds of smoke returned. Bright lights flashed in orbit. And then, the sound came, that deep, terrible roar of Korthak's engines. The Flame Division had arrived. The first attack hit hard, massive. Korthak's ships dropped hundreds of soldiers into the city. The ground shook. Buildings cracked. Fires started again. Valen screamed. But this time, someone screamed back. The humans moved fast. Reed and Vega led a small team through the burning streets. They weren't just defending, they were hunting. Every Korthak squad that landed was attacked from the shadows. Boom. Silent. Bang. Gone. Vega's blade glowed red as she cut through enemy armor like paper. Red through a plasma mine, taking out a whole squad at once. Their armor was black with dust and blood, but their eyes were focused. They didn't run. They pushed forward. Elsewhere, Juno and Cade set up sniper posts on rooftops. Cade aimed and fired one shot. One killed. Juno watched the battlefield and whispered, "They're sending everything they've got." Cade replied, "Good. Then we don't have to chase them." Inside the human base, Rain watched the battle unfold on the screen. He spoke into his comm. "Team Alpha, hold the center. Team Bravo, flank left. Team Charlie, collapse on their back line." He paused, then added, "No mercy." Back on the Korthak ship, General Zarnak grew nervous. He watched the screen in shock. His soldiers were being destroyed. His machines were falling. His best commanders were silent. "These aren't normal humans," he said. His officer replied, "No, sir. These are something else." Zarnak whispered, "What did Earth create?" On the battlefield, Vega spotted a massive Korthak's walker 10 meters tall, heavy armor, big cannon. It fired once and crushed a Valen shelter. Vega's eyes turned cold. She didn't wait for orders. She ran straight at it. She jumped, climbed the side, and threw 3 grenades into the core. Boom! The explosion lit up the sky. The walker collapsed like a dying beast. The Valen people watching began to cheer, but Vega didn't stop to listen. She kept moving. There was still work to do. By nightfall, the flame division was broken. Half their soldiers were dead. The rest were retreating. Some even dropped their weapons and ran. No one had ever made the Korthax do that before. The Valen people stood in the streets, shocked. The city was damaged again, but they were alive. And the humans, they were still standing. Commander Rain looked around at his team. No one smiled. No one celebrated. They just reloaded their weapons and checked their wounds. Kate asked, "Why don't we rest?" Rain answered, "Because they'll come again. And next time, they'll bring worse." Above the planet, the Galactic Council listened in silence. They had ignored Earth once. Now they watched Earth's warriors break the most feared army in the sector. One ambassador said, "Perhaps we were wrong about humans." Another replied, "No, we were right. That's why we're afraid." Far from the battlefield, in a quiet part of Valen, a young girl named Sarah stood with her little brother. She watched a human soldier walk past, his armor glowing in the fading light. She asked, "Are we safe now?" The soldier paused. "No," he said. "Not yet." Then he looked up at the sky. "But we're getting closer." The city was quiet again, but not peaceful. Fires had been put out. The bodies were being buried. The Valen people had started rebuilding, stone by stone, even with fear still in their hearts. Earth's warriors had won the battle, but the war was not over. Commander Rain stood at the edge of a broken wall, watching the horizon. Smoke still rose in the distance. His armor was scratched, his eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. "Report," he asked calmly. Juno answered, "Flame division is destroyed. Survivors retreated to the hills. Locals say they're regrouping." Rain nodded. "Then we go hunting soon." In a nearby shelter, Vega was cleaning her blade when a small voice called her name. It was the little girl Sira. She had been following Vega from a distance for days. Vega looked up. "You shouldn't be here." Sira stepped forward, holding something in her hands. It was a flower half burned, half alive. "For you," she said. "You saved us." Vega stared at the flower for a long time. She didn't smile, but she took it, gently, and placed it inside her armor. "Thank you," she said softly. Then she turned and walked away. The team gathered in a damaged Valen school. Desks were broken, walls cracked, but it was the safest place left. Reed pulled out a map. Scouts report Korthax soldiers hiding in the southern canyons. They're low on weapons, but still dangerous. Juno added, "They're also holding prisoners Valen families taken during the last raid." Kate clenched his fist. "Then we have to move now." Rain looked around at his team. "We do this clean," he said. "We do it fast. And if anyone gets in the way, we end them." Vega finished. As the sun set, the human team left the city once again. The road was rough. The canyons were sharp and full of shadows. They moved like hunters, silently, deadly. Meanwhile, inside a Korthax hideout in the canyon, fear had taken root. The soldiers there were younger, less trained. They had seen videos of their dead commanders. They had heard stories of black-armored humans who never missed a shot. They were afraid to sleep. In one corner, a group of Valen prisoners sat chained. Among them was an old man, weak and coughing. A guard kicked him and laughed. "Your heroes won't come here." But the guard didn't know. They were already on their way. The first human strike came just after midnight. A flash, a bang, a scream. Then silence. One by one Korthax guards fell. No alarms, no time to run. Just quick, cold justice. Vega and Cade moved through the shadows. Blades and bullets, doing their work. Juno covered them from above. Each time a Korthax stepped into view, one clean shot. Reed reached the prisoners first. He smashed the control box and opened the cell doors. The Valen people looked at him in disbelief. "Who are you?" one whispered. Reed didn't answer. He just pointed to the exit. "Go, you're free." But not all humans followed orders that night. In another part of the canyon, Cade found a small group of enemy soldiers hiding. They were young. One was even injured and crying. He aimed his weapon, then paused. They didn't fight. They didn't even raise their guns. He lowered his weapon. "Go," he said coldly, "before I change my mind." The Korthax ran. Later, Vega heard what Cade did. She was angry. "You disobeyed orders." "They were just scared kids," Cade replied. "They weren't a threat." Vega stared at him. "We're not here to show mercy." Cade looked back at her. "Then why did we come at all?" That night, back at base, Rain called a meeting. "We saved 37 prisoners. We killed over 60 enemies. Mission complete." But his voice had no joy. Because something had changed. They weren't just fighting a war. Anymore they were being watched. Not by the Korthax. By the people they were protecting. By the Valen. The next morning, the Valen survivors gathered near the city square. They had made a fire. They cooked food. And for the first time, they invited the humans to sit with them. Rain refused. Juno refused. But Cade walked forward and sat down beside the children. They smiled at him, and slowly, others joined. Later, Vega sat alone, staring at the flower the little girl had given her. It had dried, but it was still there, still alive. She closed her eyes and whispered, "Maybe mercy isn't weakness." Far above, in deep space, the Korthax High Command received reports of their defeat. One general read the files and said, "The humans are not just warriors. They are ... something else." Another added, "They fight with rage, but protect with honor." A silence fell over the room. Then a final word was spoken. "They are becoming dangerous." Dark clouds rolled over Valen. Thunder echoed in the sky. But this storm wasn't made of rain, it was made of metal. The Korthax Empire had returned, and this time, they were not just angry, they were desperate. In space, above Valen, the largest Korthax warship ever seen appeared through a rip in the sky. It was 5 times bigger than anything the humans had faced before. Its name was the Black Maw Planet Killer. Inside, Supreme Commander Vorax stood tall. His voice shook the air as he shouted, "Earth thinks it can humiliate us. Let them see what real power is." He pressed a button. Dozens of Korthax drop. Ships launched toward the planet's surface. Planetfall had begun. Commander Rain stood on a cliff, watching the sky light up with fire trails. His helmet scanned each dropship. Enemy incoming. Multiple waves. "Heavily armed," he said into his COMMs. Juno replied, "Looks like they're not holding back anymore." Vega tightened her gloves. "Good, neither are we." Rain turned to his team. "This is it. They want to end us. Let's show them what that means." Down in the city, panic spread. The Valen people had seen battles before, but this was different. The sky was falling. Children screamed. Elders prayed. Some tried to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. And then, the black-armored humans appeared again. But this time, they weren't calm. They were ready for war. The first Korthax ships landed outside the city. Hundreds of alien soldiers charged forward, weapons blazing. Buildings shook. Roads cracked. The humans met them head-on. Vega and Cade took the east side, cutting through enemies like fire through dry leaves. Vega's blade glowed hot with each strike. Cade moved fast, never missing a shot. Juno and Reed took the rooftops, providing cover from above. With every bullet, another Korthax dropped, and Rain. He was in the middle of it, all leading, fighting, destroying. Hours passed. Smoke filled the air. The ground was covered in bodies, human, Korthax, Valen. No one was safe. It was total war. At one point, Vega saw a young Valen boy trapped under rubble. A Korthax soldier was approaching. She ran. She didn't think. She jumped between them and sliced the alien in half. She pulled the boy free and shouted, "Run!" The boy didn't move. He looked at her and said, "You're not monsters. You're angels." She paused, then whispered, "No, we're just what Earth became when no one helped us." Elsewhere, Reed and Juno discovered something terrifying while searching an enemy drop pod. They found a data drive. Juno plugged it into his visor. His face turned pale. "This isn't just about Valen," he said. "The Korthax were planning to attack Earth next. This whole invasion was a test." Reed growled. "They wanted to see how strong we were." Juno nodded. "Now they know." He looked at the burning sky, and they're scared. Inside the command base, Rain watched the battlefield map. The enemy was pushing harder than ever, but so were they. "We need to hit their main base," he said. "Cut the head off the snake." Vega stepped forward. "Let me lead the strike team." Rain nodded. "Take Cade and Reed. I'll hold the line here." Vega saluted. "We won't fail." As night fell, the strike team moved toward the Korthax command post, deep in the ruins. It was heavily guarded, full of machines, weapons, and their best soldiers. But the humans didn't care. They were trained for this. They were built for this. They entered like ghosts, silent and deadly. Reed planted explosives. Cade hacked the power systems. Vega fought her way to the command room. Inside, she met Commander Vorax face to face. "You think your kind can stop us?" he roared. Vega didn't blink. "We don't think we know." Then she fired. The last thing Vorax saw was the fire in her eyes. The explosion could be seen from miles away. The Korthax command base went up in flames. Without leadership, their forces panicked. Some dropped their weapons. Some ran. Some fought like animals. But it didn't matter. Earth's warriors crushed them all. By morning, the sky was quiet again. No more dropships. No more war machines. Just smoke, silence, and victory. The Valen people stood on the broken streets. They looked at the humans, some resting, some wounded, some still standing guard. One elder said, "We prayed for peace." And Earth answered with fire. Another whispered, "They didn't. Just save us." They reminded the galaxy what humans really are. Commander Rain looked over the battlefield. He saw Vega standing beside a child, wiping dirt from his face. He saw Cade laughing with other soldiers. Just for a second, he saw Reed fixing a broken radio for a Valen healer. And for the first time, Rain allowed himself to hope. But deep down, he knew the war was not over. Not yet. The battle was over, but the silence felt heavy. Ashes still fell from the sky. Buildings were broken. The ground was filled with scars, deep wounds left by war. The Valen people walked slowly through the ruins, helping each other, burying the dead, and trying to believe that it was really finished. But Earth's warriors knew something else. The real war was still waiting. In the stars. Commander Rain stood on a high rooftop, staring into the horizon. The wind moved through his dark armor. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Behind him, Juno approached. "Scouts say no more Korthax ships in orbit." Juno said, "They're gone." Rain didn't move. "They'll be back, with more ships, bigger armies." He turned around. "We need to finish this before they do." Far beneath the city, in the ruins of an old bunker, Vega, Cade, and Reed were studying the stolen Korthax data. The files were clear and terrifying. "This wasn't just a single attack," Vega said. "The Korthax are building a new weapon, a planet-killer. Worse than the Black Maw. They call it the Silence Maker," Reed added. "It's designed to erase entire civilizations. No survivors, not even signals." Cade's voice was low. "They want to destroy Earth next." Vega stood up. Then we don't wait. Commander Rain gathered his team at the war table. The mood was quiet. No celebration. No pride. Only purpose. Rain pointed at the Korthax symbol glowing on the screen. This is where the signal came from, the final cry. It came from a Korthax prison ship, still floating in deep space. Juno narrowed his eyes. Someone inside warned us. Rain nodded. Someone took a risk, and now they need us. Vega looked at him. Rescue mission? No, Rain said. Assassination. The Oblivion left Valen within the hour. The Valen people stood on the ground and watched as the ship rose into the sky. Some waved, some cried, some simply stood, in silence, knowing they would never forget the black-armored warriors who had answered their cry. Syrah, the little girl, held her brother's hand. Will they come back? He asked. Syrah smiled softly. If the stars scream again, they will. In deep space, the Korthax prison ship floated alone, cold, silent, hidden. Inside. Thousands of prisoners were kept in metal cages. Alien leaders, soldiers, civilians, anyone who had spoken against the Empire, and in the center, locked deep underground, was a single human, Agent Solus the Ghost. He was part of Earth's intelligence force. No one had heard from him in years. Until now, he had sent the signal. The Oblivion dropped from hyperspace in complete silence. No warnings, no lights, no sounds. Inside, Rain and his team prepared for one last mission. We go in, get Solus, and destroy the ship, Rain ordered. No delays, no survivors. Vega checked her weapon. What about the prisoners? If we can save them, we do. If not. Rain paused, then finished. We make sure no one else ends up here again. They entered the prison ship through the lower decks. Guards were few, but strong. The humans moved quickly, quietly, killing with precision. No alarms rang. No backup came. The Korthax were confident. Too confident. That was their mistake. Reed found the control room and disabled the security systems. Cade and Juno located the prisoner chambers and opened every door. Aliens of all kinds spilled out, weak, tired, afraid. One old alien grabbed Cade's hand. Who are you? Cade simply said, We're from Earth. And for the first time, the alien smiled. Meanwhile, Rain and Vega reached the deep cell. There, chained and bloodied, stood Agent Solus. He looked up and gave a half smile. Took you long enough. Rain walked over and cut the chains. We're here now. Solus coughed. Then let's end it. The team planted explosives in the ship's core. As the prisoners were led to escape pods, Rain gave the final order. Leave no trace. Let the Empire feel fear. The humans left last, and as they escaped, the Korthax prison ship exploded in a bright ball of fire, shaking nearby systems. Back on Earth, the signal came through. Mission complete. Solus rescued. Ship destroyed, prisoners freed, but most importantly, the message was sent. Earth would never kneel again. Across the galaxy, the stars carried a new story, a story of a small planet that had once been ignored, a planet that had been left to suffer, and a planet that rose from ashes. Not with peace, but with warriors made of steel and fury. On Valen, Syrah looked up at the stars. A new day had begun. And though the sky was quiet, she whispered, Thank you for hearing our last cry. Hi, this story is made by a human just for fun. It's not real. All the characters and events are made up. Thanks for watching.